Racism and Rootsism. I'm gonna get heat for this with the left and the right, but I don't give a fuck. Let's go.
In professional wrestling, heat means a negative reaction or hatred. In the Heat series, I will discuss controversial topics or subjects that are focused on changing your opinion. Welcome to the Heat series. Let's shoot.
So there's basically two political sides within a modern paganism. You have the left wing and the center left wing kind of a deal, and then you have the extreme right wing. And so the extreme right wing is the racist part of European paganism. And so they depend on Blut und Boden, blood and soil. And it's all about worshipping the golden age that never existed of the past and glorifying their ancestors. And the blood part is important to them because it's all about white skin color and the blood that it contains. But it's a stupid idea, basically, because they rely on the ancestors and our white ancestors who used to live here in the golden age. The thing is, if you select your white ancestors to be your ancestors specifically, then you're just doing that, you're selecting your ancestors. Let's say you are, for example, a neo-Nazi white American who's claiming to be Irish because his ancestors were Irish. Well, I mean, what ancestors? 2 generations ago? 4 generations ago? Perhaps they came from England. Perhaps they came from Belgium. What about before that? Perhaps they came from the Caucasus region. What about before that? Perhaps they migrated from Africa. We all have African ancestors. We all have black ancestors. So to only select a few ancestors is to really completely falsify this whole ancestral worship thing, because you are ignoring a huge portion of your ancestors. So worshipping white skin color, if you will, because your white ancestors had that, it's a stupid thing. The entire world, and Europe as well, has a migratory history, and so we come from somewhere else. Really, that's just the way it is. But paganism, as we have defined it, is living together with the land that you live on. I've quoted Rakim, it's not where you're from, it's where you're at. So if it's living together with the soil or with the land that we live on, it can never really be about skin color, because that's the least important thing that we can actually think of. So if everybody has a migratory history, then we should also allow migrants, if you will, in our modern age to be part of a European paganism, because they are now living on a European soil. And so they should be able to live together with the land that they live on right now. Having non-white pagans in Europe is a natural thing. And saying that European pagans can only be white would be completely in contrast to our real history, our migratory history, and would be a dishonor for our own ancestors, some of them who were non-white. So this racism thing is basically a fallacy for a modern pagan philosophy here in Europe. So now let's talk about the left wing. The left wing has become saturated with postmodernism. And then we'll probably discuss this in another video, but postmodernism is basically that you can claim anything and everybody should be accepting and blah blah blah. it's this tiresome philosophy of you can bullshit your way out of anything, and everybody should just accept it. So a left-wing paganism is a spiritual supermarket. You can practice Asian meditation while doing an African style of drumming, while wearing a Native American headdress, and all of this ignoring European history, because Europe is for racists and idiots and slaveholders or whatever. The certain left-wing New Age philosophies, and I will make another video also on this, it just takes in whatever positive element they can find, and completely ignoring the rest of the traditions within these elements stand, and therefore destroying these traditions. Of course, you can still carry some other traditions into Europe. There's nothing wrong with that, especially if you really just migrated here. But to live together with the land that you live on, at some point you're gonna have to let go of Rootsism, which is the continuous clinging on to this place that you used to come from and that you identify yourself with. So a black person in Europe will call himself an African because he's black, which is a wrong thing to do. They're European. And likewise, and I have said this before, white Americans are not Europeans. They're Americans. But with that comes a difficulty. White people, in my philosophy, if they want to be pagan, they should, in America, they should become Native Americans. Also, people that migrate to Europe should become real Europeans and should abandon their own traditions. And this is something that the left wing will not take for granted. Well, they will take it for granted, but they will not like it. Because now you're saying that you should abandon tradition if you come from somewhere else and become part of us. And it's a part of inclusion, but at the same time it's loss of diversity, and they love diversity. And for me, the tree grows where its roots are. Which is to say, the roots are there where the tree is. You can't have someone claiming to be Australian in Europe. My roots are in Australia. Well, then go collect your roots. How can the tree grow with roots in another land? We can still be connected, if you will. I mean, but your roots are here, into the soil. That's how you can grow. A seed can travel, but the roots are here. And so yes, I am saying Europe for the Europeans. But with Europeans, I mean people that actually live here, including non-white people, and not including white people abroad. So yes, of course, non-white people should practice European shamanism if they live in Europe. That's how you connect to the European soil. So Rootsism for paganism is a fallacy, or it is a false idea. You can't keep clinging to your roots if you are somewhere else than those roots. You have to identify with the place that you are at. And so you have to adapt like the ancestors did. Or you go back to where your supposed roots are. Doesn't really matter, but you can't really logically connect the two ideas. It has to be one or the other. Just ask yourself this question. you live somewhere but you don't care for the land that you live on, how can you be pagan? So what about people that really migrated here? What about someone from Peru who migrated to France? Can he still sing his songs? Well, I mean, first of all, if he's born there, of course he can do whatever the fuck he wants. But even if he's second or third or even fourth generation, of course you can sing a traditional Peruvian song to sing about your migratory history, because we all have a migratory history. And this is basically the concept of what the Aboriginal Australians do with the dream time and the dream lines. They have lines all over the land that are songs as well. And within those songs they are singing about, you know, turn right at the end of that rock over there. And it's a song, but at the same time it's really a description of the migratory history that that person or that family or that tribe has gone through. And this is a beautiful thing. But they also sing songs about where they are at the moment. And so the Peruvian Frenchman that we took an example out of, he will also have to sing about his home in France, and he will probably do that because he's a normal person. And so to combine the two is perfectly legal here or whatever. But you can't keep clinging to roots that you don't really belong to. You have to accept the place that you are at as well. This is also found within hip-hop. There's a couple of hip-hoppers that, for example, white hip-hoppers, that wear the Africa symbol because we all migrated from Africa. And so they are saying we are all Africans in the sense that we are all connected as human beings. There is nothing wrong with that. My personal history, for example, is that, you know, my great grandfather migrated to Belgium from Germany, but I never call myself a German. I'm a Belgian, and that's because I live in Belgium. It's not really all that difficult. There is still one thing left for us to discuss, and that's what about those ancestors that we've already discussed in the more racist type of paganism? Do we really have to worship them all? Because I've said you only worship your white ancestors, which is selecting your ancestors, which is basically completely ignoring other ancestors that you have, which is kind of a weird thing to do. Well, you don't really worship the ancestors that were slaveholders or killers or rapists or whatever, but they are your ancestors nonetheless. We all have traumas or epigenetical traumas or stuff that is really within our bodies that all come from the ancestors. That's the ancestors too, you know, our diseases or our psychological difficulties that we have. That's the ancestors too. And we have to acknowledge that. And we might have to heal it. We might have to be better than that. We might have to disagree with some of the ancestors, but that's a normal thing. There is nothing wrong with that. But they are our ancestors nonetheless. And so we should incorporate that into what we are today. Racism and rootsism stand in the way of a modern pagan lifestyle and a European shamanism. Racism would be the exclusion of non-white people to the land that they really live on now. And so if you're really all about Blut und Boden, about the soil type of thing, then you should allow non-white people to connect to the soil that we live on, which we will call Europe, just out of simplicity. Rootsism also stands in the way of a modern pagan lifestyle because it ignores the fact that we are actually here instead of there in the past. We are here right now on this land right now. We are not in Morocco, we are not in Turkey, we are not in Africa, we're not in whatever the fuck. We are here. And if you really want to be a Moroccan, that's fine. Then go to Morocco. That's kind of the easy, logical thing or step to take. This is also where I have a couple of difficulties with people claiming to be Moroccan. I'm Moroccan, fuck Belgium, fuck Europe, I'm a Moroccan, Morocco is better. Fine for me. I'll treat you as a Moroccan then. And then they get mad because they get discriminated for not being equal. But you call yourself a Moroccan. So why don't you go back? Now I don't have a problem with you staying if you are a European. And that's the same thing for white people in America, for example. Become a Native American. Stop claiming to be German or Irish or whatever. You're not European. Believe me, I am European. No Europeans like white Americans. You're all a bunch of fat fucking gun-ho stupid president voting idiots. And you are not European. We do not call you guys European. You are not European at all. And basically real Africans don't like black Americans either because they are not Africans even though they call themselves Africans. So stop with this rootsism thing. Stop with the racism thing. And let's connect within our local communities with the real people that actually live there, and with the stones and with the plants and with the animals that all live there all together and form that community, regardless of race or roots. I probably haven't really discussed everything about this, so we can keep the discussion going. There's a couple of difficulties there, especially with people that have migrated. You know, again, you can sing about your old country or your old traditions and incorporate that into your new. Like there's, I'll probably look this up, but there's a Sean-Nós singer, a female singer in Ireland that is of Egyptian descent or something. But she does sing the Sean-Nós style, and it's very beautiful. So this is what I mean, you know, you don't have to keep clinging to your roots. And you also don't have to discriminate other people because of the stupid race idea thing. I'll also show you this. This is the coat of arms that my family has. And it is basically not recognized in Belgium, so I really do come from some migratory forefathers, if you will, and I don't care, you know, again, I'm a Belgian, and for me, for the people of Belgium that are actually listening to this or watching this, Belgium, if you take it with within Celtic history, the Belgians, the Belgae, that lived here were a grouping of Celtic, Germanic people that adopted the Celtic culture. So within the term of Belgium, the Belgae, is already enclosed the idea of people moving in here, perhaps of another ancestral descent, if you will, or bloodline, or roots, but still connecting to the land that they lived on, and calling themselves Celtic, adopting a Celtic culture, and living for the future, you know. Stop claiming the past, or stop clinging to the past, and that's where we all need to go to. So yeah, peace to you.